The talk today, this talk actually centers on intercultural communication in media, taboo, discourse, and ambiguity. Before I proceed to the following sections, I prefer to give you a very brief definition of the terms. Otherwise, I would be trapped by the same pitfall of ambiguity. So, conceptual definition of the terms are provided now. The most important elements in here or concepts are intercultural communication, that is communication among cultures in terms of their specificities and sensitivities, dealing with the diversity in the cultures, in terms of religion, lifestyle, cuisine, rites, rituals, customs, etc., with considering the dichotomous categorization of collectivist cultures versus individualistic cultures. Again, the other key term in here absolutely is media. What is media and what I mean by media? Media could refer to any instrument or any vehicle through which information is stored and delivered to the audience for a particular purpose. And the media can be digital media, and it could be written or published media. So as you know, nowadays media can be digitally perceived and produced and utilized for the purpose of storage and communication of information. Examples are TV programs, also social media, different kinds of broadcasts, also as nowadays basically focuses on social media, through social media information is produced, disseminated, and transmitted to the audience. It could be published or written through books, magazines, newspapers, and similar modes of communication. So by media, my definition is any vehicle or any instrument for storing information and transmitting information. That is a kind of communication. The next term that is absolutely important in this talk is taboo. What do we mean by taboo? Taboo words and taboo expressions relate to words or expressions that create sensitivity, that create some psychological, emotional inhibitions. So these inhibitions are created by social norms, ideological norms, by organizational norms, by political, social organizations. And taboo actually encompasses terms like religion, or areas like religion, movies, cinema, cuisine, food. All these are encompassed in the concept of taboo. The next term is discourse. Unfortunately, I don't have any interaction with the audience now. Hence, I take it for granted that the audience, as I know, are well aware, well acquainted with these fundamental concepts of discourse. So I assume that the students and the scholars and the distinguished professors there, they all know about the details and definitions. But discourse could be written or spoken. Any written or spoken communication could be a discourse. So that is a very general description of the term. So any debate, any kind of communication could be, or any kind of text could be referred to as a discourse. This is a very general term. general approach to the definition of discourse. The next term that is used in this talk is ambiguity. So ambiguity is a bugbear. Is the bugbear of human relationships. Is the enemy number one in all communication, specifically among the different communities, different cultural backgrounds. So creation of this ambiguity is counterproductive, is destructive, is debilitative, and creates feelings of frustration, disillusionment, disenchantment, and fury, and whatnot. Hence, for the purpose of clarity, I don't want to be basically nebulous and murky myself. That would be bitterly ironic. Hence, I try to give you a very brief summary of the variables involved. So ambiguity, as a term, ambiguous, basically means two, and ambiguity hence is double meaning, or two interpretations of the same phenomenon is referred to as ambiguous. And I don't want to go to the details. I take it for granted that you know all the nooks and crannies of ambiguity, like lexical ambiguity, grammatical ambiguity, or different kinds of ambiguity. However, ambiguity is rife, is pandemic, is endemic in our discourse and in our communication. And effort must be done to disambiguate our communication. So, here the idea of intercultural communication and the idea of media, the role of media in a specification of the idea of taboos, and also in relation with discourse. I want to see what the relationship among these elements might be. You look at them and you say probably these are irrelevant, but there is a very, very intimate relationship among these elements. So I'm trying, I have time constraint, unfortunately. Hence, I would like to, I've got to basically try to elaborate on the topic, but within a very, very limited span of time. So, communication, intercultural communication, is far from innocuously simple. This is a very sophisticated process, replete with aberrations, irregularities, and abnormalities. So, there is a multitude of misunderstanding, miscomprehension, and misinterpretation of message, especially when people from different cultures are in interaction. Now I want to see how these parameters are interrelated, and how they are basically creating problems. So this is actually a prognostic diagnostic approach to the interrelationship between discourse, media, and ambiguity and intercultural communication. So what actually happens in here? Taboo terms, taboo terminologies with respect to lifestyle, cuisine, art, gender, etc. are produced through media. They're produced prevalently through media, and they are indicated and actually seen every single minute by the people through different channels, the different media like TV, like cinema, magazines, newspapers, and all the social media. So there is a bombardment of these taboo terms, and the irony is that the taboo terms are, in my opinion, are created, disseminated, and naturalized by the media. I'm not specifically talking about a particular country. My talk is very global. So I don't have any attitude for or against any agency or whatever. My talk is very global. I'm talking about media in general in a global perspective. So media actually produce these taboos, but these taboos actually, that's a very sensitive situation. And at the same time, the governments or organizations try to put some inhibitions on the applications of these taboo words. So the specification or indoctrination of certain inhibitory benchmarks by the governments is in close interaction with the production by the same agencies, and that is the irony involved. However, in this talk, I like to pinpoint the idea of ambiguity involved in the text and in the taboo terms, especially when somebody travels to other countries and is in close contact with the people of diverse linguistic, cultural, social, ethnic, religious, educational backgrounds. So you see that the situation is very, very sensitive. That's why we are dealing with intercultural sensitivity. In my paper with, I think, a couple of years ago, we published a paper with Dr. I have to refresh my memory. Anyways, Dr. Ali Sultani. Anyways, we published a paper, two papers on intercultural sensitivity that created that attracted a lot of attention regarding the differences among collectivist and individualistic cultures in terms of taboos. So when somebody is in constant interaction with the other cultures and university settings, for instance, when we are dealing with a classroom made up of people from different backgrounds, the act of communication turns out to be a very, very slippery business. It's like a sort of uphill battle. Hence, the idea is that, what I always recommend to my students, because I've got the experience of teaching in a couple of countries, like in Turkey, like in Persian Gulf countries, also Bangkok University, India, these countries, and I have been in constant interaction and giving workshops in universities in Europe and also in Japan, in South Korea, and different countries. So basically, I've got the experience of these idiosyncrasies involved in intercultural communication. So what my main point, again, back into the same idea, is that taboos are very culturally specific. Taboos are very notoriously problematic. Taboos are very, very culturally sensitive, and they need to be disambiguated. The first step is in any kind of scientific discovery is conceptual definition, provision of conceptual definition. I believe that most of I can't say most, but my impression is that the Iranian scholars or researchers do not give adequate attention to provision of conceptual definition of the terms. So this is absolutely essential. So after this conceptual definition, we need to come up with a disambiguation of the terms. And in terms of taboo terminologies, interaction with the foreigners could be a problem. So this ambiguity, the ambiguity can be noticed in different genres and different disciplines, especially in legal context. You see that terminologies are ambiguous, and there are legal loopholes, legal leeways, which give some individuals the opportunity to take advantage of this inadequacy and take advantage of the situation for their for their own self-serving purposes. In other words, legal text must be disambiguated. They are extremely sophisticated, repeated jargons, and not basically clarified, so they turn out to be nebulous, murky, and problematic. So, getting back to the idea of the interaction, of the interaction between discourse and also the idea of media and also communication and culture. I need to again explain the fact that the role of media is of indispensable significance. What we call it, media and spin doctors. You know what spin doctors are? Spin doctors are, by definition, very, very intelligent, talented speakers or writers who can put positive or negative spin or on events and people and personalities, etc. So spin doctors can hugely modify the very same concept. So I think spin doctoring is sort of interesting in terms of giving, creation of consciousness. So what Chomsky and the others, Chomsky basically deals with the idea of subliminal seduction and media seduction, that every single minute we are seduced by media all over the world. And the media actually create realities, disseminate realities, create ideologies, disseminate ideologies, naturalize ideologies and worldviews, and people, dramatically and easily, they toe the line, they jump on the bandwagon, and they join the majority. So gullibility, naivety, simplicity, and even stupidity is the repercussion. So my point again in this regard is that taboos and discourse and culture and also media are inextricably tied up in a very, very close manner. Again, to give you some examples or some explanations, I refer to the idea of ambiguity. Ambiguity deals with meaning. Ambiguity relates to meaning. There are a plethora of meanings for different vocabulary items. We have denotative, connotative meaning, core meaning, non-core meaning, dictionary meaning as opposed to textual meaning, organizational meaning, figurative meaning, literal meaning, non-literal meaning. Different kinds of meaning are presented for particular vocabulary items. But most of the time, we turn a blind eye to these overtones of meanings in a context. And they say, you need to know about the pragmatic considerations, cultural considerations, about the textual considerations, semantic considerations. As you know, I think most of the, I don't know, but probably most of the audience are linguists or applied linguists, I reckon. So they already know about the interface of syntax, pragmatics, and semantics, and this story and this narrative is still a perpetuating story, and there's a lot of unresolved issues going on. Again, getting back to the idea of culture, and also how taboos are created, and what are taboos, and what the relationship among taboos, discourse, and intercultural communication might be. The problem is that I don't have a clue how much time I've got, but I try to give you the gist of my talk, and unfortunately there is no interaction. I think my email is provided so that you can send me emails. I really will be more than happy. I will be delighted to receive your feedback. There are potential, there are very important elements for studies, for writing papers on, for dissertations that are related to this topic. Hence, the term ambiguity in different areas, in different disciplines and different genres, we have different approaches, semantic approach to ambiguity, corpus linguistic approach to ambiguity, pragmatic approach to ambiguity, syntactic approach to ambiguity, in literature, postmodern approach to ambiguity, in translation, post-colonial approach to ambiguity. All of these are very interesting issues for study. Hence, in case you know that is one part of the process of this interaction, the ambiguity in itself, ambiguity in scientific writing. The problem is that most of the time, especially I reckon this is not absolute truth. I reckon most of the time the different stages of production of a manuscript, like a dissertation, are violated or are ignored through nonchalance or recklessness by the producers of the materials. Like at any part of materials, you need to have the first. You need to have drafting, that is the production of the text. Then you need to go through editing. Then you need to go through revising or sequencing. Then you go through the editing, and afterwards the proofreading of the materials. All of these, especially the editing of the materials, focuses on the clarity of the manuscript, clarity of the materials presented. So materials, most of the time you see the definitions given are not clear. They are equivocal, they are nebulous, they are unclear, they are sophisticated, and sometimes in some areas, obfuscation happens. What do I mean by obfuscation? I think the term is obfuscation, obfus, obfuscation. Anyways, obfuscation happens, meaning that intentionally the writer tries to sophisticate the very simple terminologies and ideas. Obfuscation is intentional ambiguation of the materials and ideas for the purpose of rendering the reader or the audience confused and perplexed and hopeless. So if somebody can work on obfuscation of the literary text, obfuscation of medical text, obfuscation in legal terminologies, in legal text and stuff. A very interesting issue is legal loopholes. Legal loopholes give the idea of people taking advantage of the ambiguity of the legal contracts, for instance. I have personal experiences to give you. I've been working with at different universities abroad, foreign countries, but different countries have got different degrees of ambiguity. Some countries, they are very precise, like Germany or like European countries. They are very precise and exact in terms of all the details, the workload, the salary, the holidays, paid holidays, transportation, the food, the accommodation, and everything. But in some cases, I give a very important issue of salary, for instance. There are two kinds of salaries. One is, the gross salary, and the other is net salary. And in your contract, the net salary is what you actually receive after the taxation or the taxes is applied, which is what you literally receive, the cash in your pocket, let's say. But the gross salary is not what you receive. The gross salary is much less than what you receive because it goes through taxation 30% off or 20% off. Some organizations are ambiguous. They deliver you like this is your salary, and you think you are happy and excited, and you join them. But afterward, they say, "Come on, mate, this was not the net salary. This was actually the gross salary," and you end up in misery because you go through the hassle of moving to another country, and you see that half your salary is gone because of this ambiguity in the contract. So ambiguity in the contracts, in marriage contracts, in contracts related to the car sales, to state agents, all these ambiguities can be very, very destructive, leading to very lethal problematic situations. So this was about ambiguity. So ambiguity in terms of culture, you need to, any interaction with any people, from any individual from a diverse background, a cultural background, you need to remove these ambiguities. These ambiguities must be eradicated. Everything must be crystal clear in terms of the terminologies. If I say, for instance, being late, time is not clear. What is on time in one country? For example, in some we have high context cultures and low context cultures. High context cultures like the Middle Eastern cultures and stuff. The concept of time differs from the low context cultures like Germany or France or European countries. So the concept of on time, culturally meaning like in some Middle Eastern countries, on time means even 2 hours later will do. No worries, take it easy, mate. But like in Germany, you have when I say 10 a, I'll see you 10. The meeting is 10 a.m. It means precisely 10 a.m. So the concept of time is ambiguous. Punctuality is ambiguous. The concept of employment is ambiguous. Employment through what? Through nepotism, through favoritism, through connectivism, through all these processes. This is a very ambiguous way of employing people. You need to have crystal clear regulations for employment. Otherwise, there is unfair treatment and injustice, and there is no clarity, no kind of let's say this sense of duty, responsibility, and accountability. So ambiguity leads to lack of responsibility. Ambiguity leads, these are practical, pragmatic reasons why ambiguity must be removed in discourse. The ambiguous discourse relates to chaos. The ambiguous discourse, sometimes created by media. I don't want to label the media as the enemy number one or the poisonous, venomous serpent, but I'm talking global. I don't like the journalists or the news agency there to be offended. I respect you a lot, and thank you very much, and I care for you. However, you see, I'm talking. This talk is global. This is not local. I'm not targeting any individual organization. So you say that the media can create ambiguity. You see in political discourse, political negotiations, you see a lot of nebulous, ambiguous, and unclear things, even under the counter. Behind the closed door, so that people themselves have no view of whatever is going on actually. What is the cause of this particular event? There are thousands of speculations with no plausibility, with no credibility, and they all claim to be selling the truth. So basically, this is the pragmatic considerations and pragmatic repercussions of the let's say ambiguous discourse created, disseminated, naturalized by media. So the media role is very sensitive. The media responsibility is very, very massive. The onus is on the media to clarify the cultural differences, to clarify the cultural sensitivities in terms of taboo terms. So if you travel to India, you see that there is diversity, unity in diversity. You see thousands of different linguistic and cultural and religious attitudes and sort of affiliations are living together in peace and harmony, and they are supporting one another. That is marvelous indeed. That is absolutely marvelous. So I don't want to prolong this talk any further. Probably I'm rambling on and on. But basically, the idea is the interplay between discourse and creation of discourse, creation of the ambiguous discourse, which creates also taboos, ambiguous taboos, and actually the interplay among all of them in a sort of intercultural manner. I always recommend the book's series Lonely Planet. Lonely Planet series. Whenever I want to travel to any country beforehand, before traveling, I read all the cultural issues relating to the cuisine, to sensitivities, to gender studies and lifestyle of that particular issue. So again, I would like you to, if you like, I'm not propagating this organization. I'm talking to you as a reader of this series. There are different other tourist agencies and series you can go for, but I've read these series. So you can also read tourist advice, and different other organizations are relevant. Hence, at the end of my talk, I want to recapitulate the discussion, and I would like to get your feedback, please, among you, the students, the scholars, the distinguished professors, that I'm just a humble researcher, and I'm going to get enlightenment and inspiration from you, all of you, the professors there. But unfortunately, I'm far away, but we can be in contact through email. So the email is provided. I am also on ResearchGate and also on academia.edu, very important communities, and that I strongly, warmly recommend that the students join for their future professional development. So ResearchGate and academia.edu, and I also have my YouTube channel by Professor Ali Rahimi. You can look at my materials, my keynote speeches, my workshops in different countries, and also that's the way we can collaborate. So to give a very, very, very brief recap or recapitulation of what I talked about, the elements of discourse, media, also intercultural communication, and taboo terms and taboo terminologies were sort of briefly analyzed, expanded, and delineated through some examples, and the interplay among them, the potential areas of study, the potential areas of research for further studies, for dissertations, for thesis, were actually presented, and I hope I can get feedback from you, and I miss you, and I love you, and look after yourselves, and I hope my talk has been helpful and useful for you. Hope to see you soon. Look after yourselves.